Do you ever wake up at 3 in the morning, stare at the ceiling, and realise that your primary emotion about next year isn't hope anymore, but just a quiet, heavy exhaustion? Like you're bracing yourself for a blow you can't see coming, holding your breath through the day, trying to manage a dozen different futures that haven't even happened yet. It's that feeling of holding your breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop, running scenarios in your head like a chess player trying to anticipate every single disaster. You're not necessarily in a crisis right now, not a visible one anyway, but you are quietly terrified of what's coming next. Now, if you share that with someone, especially in religious circles, you usually get a very specific kind of advice. They'll tell you that you just need to pray more, or they'll say, you just don't have enough faith. Which, let's be honest, usually just feels like another chore on an already exhausting spiritual to-do list. But I don't think that's it. Your issue isn't a lack of faith. It's that you've been trained to believe that God's presence is only real when you can see the destination. You've been trying to navigate a dark forest by looking for a map, when what you actually need is just a guide who knows the way. What if the goal isn't to get a map at all? Over the next few minutes, we aren't going to talk about how to get everything you want, or how to magically fix your bank account or your relationship by tomorrow morning. I'm not here to give you 3 steps to prosperity. Instead, we're going to look at how to stop checking the weather reports of your life every 5 minutes. By the time we're done, you'll have a completely different way of dealing with the silence of God. You'll find yourself stopping that automatic habit of running worst-case scenarios in your head before you even get out of bed. We are going to find a way to let you breathe again, even when the wind is still blowing, and even when the path ahead is still completely covered in fog. There's a verse you've probably seen on a coffee mug, or maybe a graduation card, or on a plaque at your aunt's house. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. It sounds nice, almost too nice, right? Especially when you're looking at your bank account or a medical report. But if we actually look at what's going on under the surface of those words, it's different. The Hebrew word for know there is yada. Now, in our modern world, knowing is about information, it's about data. But in the ancient Hebrew mind, yada is intimate. It's relational certainty. It's the way a parent knows the heartbeat of their child. It's not God looking at your life from a distance and saying, yeah, I have that file somewhere. It's an active, intimate attention. And that word plans, machashavot. Actually, let me clarify that. It doesn't mean a calendar event or a rigid blueprint. It's not a checklist. It means thoughts, intentions, deep designs woven together. God isn't looking at a pre-written itinerary for your life and checking off boxes. He is holding a deep, unshakable intention for you, a design of peace, of restoration. And that design doesn't depend on whether you have it all figured out today. Let's look at 2 people. The first person, let's call them the architect. The architect has 3 different planners on their desk. They research every potential problem before it happens. If they feel a slight pain in their side, they Google it for 3 hours, and congratulations, according to the internet, they have 3 days to live. If there's a financial question, they run 5 different spreadsheets, adjusting the numbers to see how bad it could get. On the outside, everyone thinks they have it together. They're the responsible one, the one everyone calls. But inside, their chest feels tight. They lie awake at 2 in the morning, playing out conversations that haven't happened yet, trying to solve problems that don't exist. They are utterly, deeply exhausted. because they are trying to build a fortress out of their own control. Then there's the second person. Let's call them the sailor. Same age, same chaotic economy, same family issues, same uncertainty about what next year looks like. But their shoulders are down. They aren't panicked. They aren't passive. They still go to work. They still pay the bills. They aren't pretending everything is perfect or living in some fantasy world. But they aren't drifting. They have this quiet weight to them. When the storm hits, they don't spin out. When the news is bad, they don't immediately start packing their bags. What does the sailor know that the architect doesn't? Just let that question sit for a moment. We'll get back to it. To understand the difference, you have to look at how an anchor actually works. I was reading about this the other day. An anchor doesn't work by grabbing onto the water. That would be useless. The water is constantly moving, shifting, swirling. If you try to anchor yourself to the water, you're just going to drift with it. Instead, the anchor has to sink through the chaos of the waves, past the currents, until it embeds itself in the seabed. The seabed is fixed. It is unseen. It is completely unaffected by the wind howling up top. The ship on the surface, though, it's fully exposed. The rain hits it, the tide pulls it, the wind pushes it left and right. But here is the key. The anchor's job is not to make the water calm. It's not to stop the waves from crashing against the hull. The anchor's only job is to stop the ship from drifting away. When God says, "For I know the plans I have for you," He isn't handing you a roadmap. He isn't showing you the route or promising a smooth cruise. He is saying, "I am the seabed. The plans are the anchor. The waves will still hit your boat. You will still feel the movement of the tide. You will still feel the rocking." Wait, let's be honest about this. An anchor doesn't make the storm go away. If you're looking for a faith that promises a flat sea, you're looking for something God never promised. But the drift, the slow, silent drifting away into despair, into anxiety, into believing that you are completely on your own, that stops. God's promise is not a map, it is an anchor. You don't need to see the whole ocean, you just need to stop drifting. Think about how we use cloud backups now. You're working on a document, or you have years of family photos on your phone, and suddenly the device crashes. The screen goes black, it won't turn on. You might panic for a second, but then you remember, the files aren't actually on the phone, they are stored somewhere else, secure, untouchable by a broken screen or a dead battery. The phone might be broken, but the data is completely safe. That is what Jeremiah 29:11 is doing. Your future isn't stored in your ability to keep your life from crashing. It's backed up in the character of God. The device, your current circumstances, might feel glitchy today. It might even feel like it's crashing. But the master file is secure. You don't have to keep the system running by sheer willpower. Let's do a quick self-check and be honest with yourself here. First, are you exhausted not because you're doing too much physical work, but because you are constantly deciding too much? The weight of decision fatigue is crushing you. You're trying to figure out options for things that might not even happen for 2 years. Second, do you find yourself saying, "I trust God," but your body hasn't actually heard the news yet? Your mind says the right words, but your stomach is still in knots, your jaw is clenched, and you haven't taken a deep breath in 3 days. And third, you find it almost impossible to enjoy the present moment, a good cup of coffee, a conversation with your spouse, a quiet evening, because your brain is already trying to manage a crisis 6 months down the road. Peace feels almost irresponsible to you. Like if you let your guard down, something will go wrong. If that's you, look, this doesn't mean you're faithless. It doesn't mean you're broken. It just means you've been holding something that was never yours to hold. You've been trying to hold the ship still with your own hands instead of letting the anchor do the work. The mistake we make, and I've done this more times than I care to admit, is that we treat trust like a feeling. We think we have to force ourselves to feel peaceful before we can take a step. We wait for the anxiety to disappear before we move forward. But trust isn't a feeling you generate, it's a posture you return to. It's a decision you make when you wake up, and sometimes it's a decision you have to make again at 10:15 a.m, and again at noon, and again when you're driving home. It's resetting your center when everything else is pulling you off course. It's not about feeling brave, it's about choosing where you place your weight. So how do we actually do this? How do we stop the drift in the middle of our daily lives? First thing, we have to stop asking, what is the ultimate plan? And start asking, what is the very next step? We want the whole map, but God usually only gives us enough light for the next couple of feet. In Proverbs it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths." Notice it doesn't say he'll show you the destination. It just says he'll make the immediate path straight. Stop trying to figure out year 5. Just ask what faithfulness looks like for the next hour. Now here's the second shift. We need to stop rehearsing worst-case scenarios and start rehearsing the character of God. Your mind is like a theatre. You're constantly running previews of disaster. The prophet Isaiah wrote, "You keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you." When a worry enters your head, instead of playing the movie to the end, stop and remind yourself of who God has already proven himself to be. Flip the script from "what if everything goes wrong" to "who is holding me if it does?" Third, and this is a hard one, stop waiting to feel peace before you act. Start acting from the anchor, not the wave. In Philippians, Paul tells us, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God." The peace isn't the prerequisite for action, it's the result of handing the weight over. You don't wait for the storm to clear to drop the anchor. You drop the anchor during the storm. Fourth, we have to stop confusing God's silence with God's absence. Just because you don't hear a voice doesn't mean he's walked away. Psalm 46 says, "Be still and know that I am God." Sometimes the silence is actually an invitation to stop talking, stop planning, and just exist in his presence. And fifth, this is where it gets practical in your daily routine. Build one simple daily anchor ritual. Not for productivity, not to get more done, but for positioning. Lamentations tells us that the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases, his mercies never come to an end, they are new every morning. Pick a time, maybe the first 5 minutes after you wake up, before you check your phone, to sit in silence and say, "Lord, I am here, you are here, that is enough for today." When you live this way, something shifts. It's subtle at first. You don't suddenly have a perfect life or $1 million in the bank. But you notice that when the news is bad or the decision is delayed, you don't instantly spin out. It's no longer an effort to stay calm, you just find yourself anchored. You look at the waves and you acknowledge them, but you don't feel like they're going to pull you under. You become like that stable ship, still in the water, still feeling the rise and fall of the tide, but completely secure. You can watch the storm happen around you without it happening inside you. Because this journey, it's not about finding the perfect path, it's about knowing the guide. It's not about avoiding the storm, it's about holding the anchor. It's not about having all the answers, it's about trusting the one who does. It's not about managing the wind, it's about anchoring the ship. It's not about securing your tomorrow, it's about resting in His today. And ultimately, it's not about your hold on God, it's about His hold on you. If this resonated with you, do me a favour. Just write, "Lord, I trust the anchor," in the comments below. Let it be a simple declaration for yourself today. And if you know someone, maybe a friend or a co-worker, who hasn't slept well in weeks because of something they simply can't control, send this to them. Just one person. We don't post here to give you hype or quick fixes. We're here to build a quiet space where we can remember the truth together. Subscribe if you want to keep finding that space.